what's up? We're here for the Soulful Summer Series, the first session of our Soulful Summer Series, and today we're talking about setting boundaries with confidence. I'm Iyana Anderson, founder and CEO of Well Together, and I'm here with Danielle and Phil. If y'all want to introduce yourselves real quick.
Hey y'all, I'm Danielle Muhammad, LCSW, founder of Dope and Happy Therapy and Coaching Services. Y'all know DOPE stands for Defining Our Personal Experience.
Hi everybody, my name is Phil, licensed associate counselor. I am the founder and creator of Rebirth of the Man, LLC, which focuses on, getting our brothers together.
Sounds good. So we're super excited to be joining y'all today with this conversation about setting boundaries. So I think I was talking about it with you, Danielle, the other day, that I was wondering if the conversation of setting boundaries is old, but I think it's a conversation that we can always have. And I think just even as we're in different seasons or elevating to different levels, that conversation of boundaries is important. So first, before we get into all the boundaries talk, it is Minority Mental Health Month, and that's why we're also having this series and having these conversations. So first, just want to start by asking, what is the significance of Minority Mental Health Month, and maybe how you guys celebrating it, or what does it mean to y'all?
I think the significance is representation. At least for me, in my experience as a Black person, we don't necessarily off the bat connect with mental health. It's something that we try to separate ourselves from because we got enough things that we're worried about. So we don't want, to connect with something else that's negative. But at the end of the day, we're human. Mm-hmm. So just like any other group, we all have mental health issues, not necessarily have a mental health diagnosis, which is different, but we all have a mind, we all have mental health. So I think it's important that we, are able to see those things in our everyday that can, be, issue, mental health issues or lead to some mental health issues.
Sure.
Absolutely. And I think for me, what Minority Mental Health Month means is probably reframing and rebuilding. I think that we need to reframe the conversation. In our community, as Danielle said, mental health is not really in the forefront. We think that we can handle everything on our own, the whole adage of what happens in this house stays in this house and all that. And that doesn't necessarily address the problem. And so we definitely need to reframe the conversation, and we need to rebuild. This is a way to rebuild our communities, and get back to the things that matter. Mental health matters. It affects every aspect of your life. I don't think people really understand that. Your health, your overall well-being, your thought patterns, it affects, you're not healthy, you can't really function. So it affects everything in your life. So that's why it's very important to have this moment.
For sure. Can I add something that just came to mind as well? Minority Mental Health Month is in July, is the second half of the year, right? So in January we have our resolutions, I'm gonna do this for the year. So I think it's really appropriate that it's in July because this is the time you can look back and be okay, what has the first half of the year look like? What do I want to do to either make it better or continue that progress that I have made? So, being able, like you just said, refresh.
Yeah, I like that. I think just from the conversation and hearing y'all speak, I got I think the 4 R's. So reset, kind of, right? So it's a moment to reset. Then the representation piece as well too, and then you also, Phil, you mentioned reframe and rebuild, and I like those. So that's something I'm keep in the back of my mind. But I was also just going to say too, to that representation piece is I think we have May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's just the general, right? You hear the general statistics and things of that sort, but just to have that opportunity to really focus on minority populations and their needs, their challenges is something that's really important. And I think agreeing with the reframing part of reframing it from it just being such a negative thing, but empowering people. So next we're going to be talking about boundaries now. So wanting to ask if you can define boundaries with one word.
My word to describe boundaries was expectations. So what made me think of that was, you should have rules for yourself, right? I feel when we hear boundaries, it's this person crossed my boundaries. Is about the other person would, they should or should not do. When really boundaries are the rules we should have set for ourselves, and what we're going to do if someone, crosses that line. So I might have a rule like that. I don't allow people to curse at me, like period. We could, joking, but serious, like that's a no for me.
Yeah.
So that is my expectation, that when we have a conversation, we communicate, like we're going to speak to each other with respect. And if you don't, then that's where that boundary comes in, that I have to then decide, what am I going to do about this interaction? Like, am I going to continue to talk to you? Am I going to be like, I'm done? Like, that's what I feel like the boundary is. It's like your rules. So
I like that. So next, just wanted to know a little bit about what boundaries look like for you guys right now in this moment.
I think for me, especially since I turned 40, like my time, like I prided myself on always being consistent, always showing up. Like I'm that person, you got a birthday, baby shower, looking at the moon, like I'm coming, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, but then I would catch myself being like, oh, like I feel like I'm spread too thin. Like I'm trying to be over here, over there. So really like saying like, do I have the time? Do I have the capacity? And do I have what I call like the energetic like currency? Like, do I have enough for this situation right now? And if I don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that's my
boundary.
Okay. I think my boundary right now would probably be what I give my energy to. Like, certain things I'm just not gonna give my energy to, whether that's a conversation, whether that's certain emotions, certain people, certain actions. I'm just not gonna give it my energy. So I think right now that's what my boundaries look like. Being able to control what gets my energy and my attention.
For sure. I resonate with both of those, and I'm sure people watching could resonate with those as well too. I think for me, it's kind of like work-life balance right now, and trying to figure out those boundaries. I think just navigating, working, and then also like how I'm taking care of myself and pouring into myself. So I'm pouring into the people, but then how am I pouring into myself as well too? Especially just kind of like with this like go, like everything's like the rush of life and stuff like that. But I think also just getting a little bit more vulnerable. Like for me, my father wasn't really in my life, right? So I think now as we're rebuilding our relationship, it's like different. I think when like you grow up with someone and you have like those boundaries, I guess, that you set like year over year, right? But then after that, now it's just like in rebuilding and repairing a relationship, like what these boundaries look like as me as an adult and you as an adult, right? And just trying to figure that out. So that's also something that I'm trying to navigate as well too. Transitioning from that question and wanting to know like what was helpful for you all in identifying some of your boundaries.
I think the turning point for me was the pandemic. It's one of those things like you know when you need to like get yourself in order, but sometimes it takes for a hard stop, like where it's like you can't go any further. You have to address this, and I think the pandemic really set me down, where I had that time to like sit and think about like, yo, like I don't like how I feel when this is happening, or when this person has said this to me, like, yo, they was coming for me, like, or it was shady, and it's like there's a pattern of that, So for me, that was definitely like the turning point for me.
I think many people can relate to that too. I think that was the same for me as well too. Like really having the moments to sit down. For me, I like to journal, so I journal, and I think just journaling maybe about a situation that's happened or something, as I'm just kind of reflecting on it. I'm able to kind of look at it kind of in the same way, like, oh, I didn't like the way that, what happened in that situation, and like maybe this is what would have made me feel safe or comfortable or respected and stuff like that. So I think through just reflection, of my experiences, that's kind of helped me to identify some of my boundaries. What about you, Phil?
I don't know if it was one specific thing. I think for me, it probably was just this self-aware journey that I've been on. So, and I think every year I try to add some things. So I don't know if it was just one thing. And I know that, what I do is I practice like mindfulness. Like I'll sit still for days. Like I won't talk to anybody on the phone. I won't call anybody. I won't social media. I won't. So in those moments, I'm always thinking about me again, we just got finished talking about protecting yourself, my frequency. So I'm always thinking about that. So I think for me it was just like self-aware, like certain things, certain people may aggravate me. So now I got to devise a plan not to be around them. Certain people say things. So just again, what we talk about not giving my energy to certain things, that's what it was. So that's how I kind of developed, like continue to develop my boundaries, like all the time. I'm just gonna be like, I'm just gonna add more stuff and more people to the box and whatever, and however it turns out, it turns out. But as long as it is working for me, as long as I feel protected, as long as I feel that I'm not being attacked or anything else, and then I'm not gonna and I'm doing it not only for me, but I'm doing it for other people too, because that's not really the type of individual I am. That other side of me is not really where you want to be, so I'm doing it for both of us. So because if that side comes out, it's not going to be pretty. So, and I like not wanting to go there. That's what, like, because it doesn't solve anything. Not wanting to go there, not wanting to feel like that. So that's why, that was, I guess that was for me. That was the turning point, just the continuation of the journey.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, I think overall, and just even all of our responses, self-awareness plays a big role in it. Talking about that, I was kind of thinking as we were speaking, I think just even thinking about the number of times we said boundaries, and y'all think there's any such thing as too many boundaries?
No, I don't. No, I don't because I don't think you can ever have too many boundaries, because you have to. So we live in a land that has laws, rules, and regulations, right? And I don't think it's too many. In order for us to function and to carry on life and be successful in whatever we do, we have to abide by certain rules. So why is it that we can't apply that same rule structure to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not. We apply it to everything else. Driving a car, can't run the red light, don't go through the yellow. This is double lines, all this. Okay, so why can't apply and create structure for how I want people to treat me?
For sure.
So that's how I don't think you can ever have to.
And maybe I'm being a little controversial. I want to be a little bit, but I'm just thinking about, like, sometimes I think of your word expectations, right? Where social media has been put in the mix, where we're talking about these expectations that we have, these large sometimes expectations. So I don't want to judge nobody, but I'm just wondering if it's like in that way. Is it just that we're having larger than life expectations, or is it like I said, the too many boundaries?
I think like a couple of things. I think people can be rigid, right? Which may not necessarily be boundaries per se, but being rigid is like you want every single thing to be your way, which we all have the right to want life to be the way we want, but you also have to know that everybody don't have to participate in that.
Yeah, for sure.
And on top of that, like going back to expectations, everybody don't have the capacity for your expectations, and that's where you got to decide, like, am I going to deal with this person where they at right now, or am I going to transition out of this relationship? And that's a hard conversation to have with yourself. So if you decide, okay, I'm gonna deal with them the way they are, you got to know 9 times out of 10 they probably gonna cross that boundary. So are you cool with that? Like, we say, well, that's just how they are. Okay, but just know that's how they are. So you can have as many boundaries as you want. You should be clear about what your lines are, but just know your circle might be small.
For sure.
And some people may be okay with that, because like I'm one of these people I'm okay. Like, I don't need a lot. I'm sociable. My wife is always like, "Oh, you're very sociable." I'm not sociable on purpose. I just got one of the faces or looks that people just want. But I don't like. I don't need to be. And I'll give you an example. Like Danielle brought up the pandemic. So in the pandemic, I noticed with her, it was bothering her more than it was bothering me, because I can sit still. Like I really could care less if don't nobody. I'm not really a phone conversation type person anyway. Like I go where I go, and if I don't see people or hang out with people for months, I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. And then back to your point about social media. Yes, social media is influencing people, but that's because people, again, haven't developed who you are as a person. You can't let your standards, can't be based off of something that you see on it. then that's not really your stand.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're trying to adapt and attach to something that's like, it's you're being fake, you're being phony, and it's not who you are. So I think a lot of it, they get influenced by it because they haven't yet developed or figured out who they are and how they want to be handled. So now you handle me like this. We see it with the nonsense with the dating stuff. Oh, you don't take me here. Girl, Bob, like nobody dealing with that. But that's what we see that because that's your expectation based off of somebody else because you haven't set boundaries or developed a set of rules and norms for yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's where that comes from.
I agree with you both. So now just transitioning from that kind of on a similar note. So you guys have any advice on what if someone continuously disrespects your boundaries?
Lord Jesus.
A habitual line crosser.
Yes. So how do we handle that?
Right, that part.
No, we can't. We promote that. But no, you have to. I'm telling you, like I'm gonna say I lost friends, I've lost acquaintance because if I step in and tell you, yo, don't talk to me and don't handle me like that, we're not friends. You really wasn't friends to begin with. So I think people you do have to draw a line in the sand, like. And again, hey, you were out of line. I don't want to be talked to or treated to like that. Let's move on. I'm just making you aware. And if they can't be aware of that, then you really need to get from around those people because those people are not the people that's really there for you and support you. An honest friend or an honest person, you should be able to go to them and say, hey, I didn't like X, Y, and Z. As a self-aware person, let me self-diagnose. You know what? I apologize. And move on. But if that can't happen, then again, the whole thing is about boundaries and protecting yourself. You have to get away from those people because all they're gonna do, like Danielle said, they're just gonna keep going habitual offender. Yeah. And every time they offend you, it's gonna be worse than the last time, and the last time is gonna be worse than that time.
Yeah.
And then you will, it will come maybe to a physical altercation, a fight that, and you say things that you can't really draw back, whatever. Yeah. So make them aware, and if they don't adjust, then you get going.
For sure. So I'm thinking even just about, I want to ask you about that get gone piece. Should it be a formal conversation, or sometimes you just gotta dip off and they don't even hear from you? Or what's your thoughts on that?
It depends. Yeah. It depends, right? Like some people, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, again, I keep saying the word capacity. Yeah. What people had a capacity for. Are y'all on the same level as far as emotional intelligence? Okay. Because that's another thing that comes up when you start to work on yourself. Are the people around you doing that as well? Because if they're not, it's going to be a little tricky, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say, communicate. That's the first line. Like, let people know, express to them that something is bothering you. Like, your needs are important. How you feel is important. And I can, speak for myself. Like, I'm a person, I hold things in. Like, I'm like, oh, it's not that serious. Then that line get pushed over the edge, and then now I'm, 2 seconds away from wilding out, which is not, good. So I had to learn, like, no, you gotta have hard conversations with people, and it is not your responsibility to carry their, feelings. You can be considerate of it, but that's on them to decide if they want to, change or not. You can't do anything about that. So having that conversation, if it's a person that you have tried that with, and you know for a fact they can't do that, or they get belligerent or whatever, I know people talking on social media about like, oh, don't ghost people. Sometimes you gotta just let people go, and I say love them from a distance. Yep. And that's okay. All relationships are not meant to be forever. Yep.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that communication piece. I think for me, sometimes it's like, all right, I said something one time, I said something twice, and then the other time, I think it's just like sometimes deciding, I think as we've been saying, what's worth my energy and not, So it might be a conversation, but at that point, I think my capacity is done, and it's just gonna be like, you probably won't hear from me again. That part. So that's it. So now putting the shoe on the other foot, like, how can we be respectful of other people's boundaries?
I mean, self-aware, right? You gotta be self-aware. I think that sometimes it is, like Danielle said, it's an absolute hard conversation. Sometimes we say things and we do things, and because it's our what we believe to be our norm, we think it's okay.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what we said about having a true friend, or true people in your corner that respect you and you respect them, because then you can have that conversation. The conversation is going to be hard, but it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
Because both of you guys are going to respect what's coming back. I'm listening, I'm respecting, and if they're really there and it's really meant to be, the adjustment will be made.
Mm-hmm.
But like Danielle said, sometimes you definitely you might have to ghost this person based on how they react to certain things. You know them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know they don't like having heartfelt conversations, or they're not truthful individuals. They're always right. I'm never wrong. So you having that conversation with them is pointless.
Yeah.
Because nothing's gonna change. They're not gonna hear what you're saying. So now I gotta step off. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you said, like Danielle said, love you from afar. I wish you the best. There's no harm coming to you, but we can't be in the same circle.
For sure. I want to acknowledge all that you said. I agree with that. And I'm just thinking too, with what was said before about, sometimes having to ghost someone. So I'm wondering if it's the context of family. Like, I know a lot of people say that's, that's more difficult. So what do you guys think about that?
You can love them from a distance.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, same here. Like, you love them from a distance, but again, and that's a great point that you brought up, because sometimes family takes more liberties than anybody else. Like, let's have this truthful conversation.
Yeah.
Like, they pierce you and hurt you more than the average person does, because it's family, because sometimes it's unexpected, and you're like, well, damn, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, but again, I wish you no harm. You're still my blood, you're still my kin, that's my family, but the conversations will be limited, the energy will be limited. Hey, just calling to check to see how you're in the family. Okay, good. There's no, the connection that you'll probably be lost forever. But again, I'm still here. I'm still loving you. I'm still praying for you every night. I'm still doing all those things for you. But our relationship has changed, and in order for us both to survive mentally, this is the way it has to be.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that, because I think sometimes I hear conversations about boundaries, and it's just like, I think we were talking about this. Just cut them off. And that's not always feasible for every
and that's
situation.
not always boundaries either, because sometimes, like, we can be in a space where we're not the most, emotionally mature. We, don't know how to have a conversation. So instead of attempting that, it's like, I'm just going to be done and I'm just going to avoid. It's really an avoidance.
Yep.
But it sounds, like you big and bad, or I just be cutting people off left and right. And it's like, that's not a badge of honor. Like, that means you don't know how to handle your relationships. Like,
you better get a dog, because you're going to be by yourself.
Right, you're going to be alone. So then who you battling with? So it comes down to being able to manage relationships. And I think, especially in our communities, like you were saying, like with our families and even like with friends, it's like this automatic loyalty. Like, it don't matter, what they say, blood to the boy, we gonna ride or die. And it's like, let's stop the ride or die. Let's have the filter of, like, do we align with each other? Mm-hmm. Are we healthy, for each other?
Yeah.
And our families, like, we continue like patterns. So if our parents, our grandparents, they just let people talk crazy about them or do things to them or steal from them, it's like, oh, that's family. We're more likely to be like that, but we don't have to. Mm-hmm. That is not healthy.
Yeah. That's
not healthy. So you are entitled to have your boundary. And I know you were saying earlier about, like, what if we are like the offender, we the habitual line crosser, or we could be. Yeah, everybody have, we all can be in that position. Mm-hmm. It's no like, oh, you the villain and I'm the victim. No, we all can be in those positions. And I think, like, asking people, right, like, hey, do you have the capacity for that? Or, saying it in the nine. Sometimes people like, what you talking? Why you talking like that? But it's like, yo, like, I got, can you do that for me? Like, as opposed to saying, like, yo, I need you to do this. Like, you gonna do it, right? Like, not putting that pressure on people. And we still going to probably do that, right? Because we're human. Being able to take accountability. Oh my God. Like, that is how you repair and, what's the word? Like a restorative practice. That's how you restore a relationship, is saying, like, yo, you know what? I was doing too much, in that moment. My bad. Like, so next time, just check me, and I'm going to try to check myself. Yeah. Like, so we had to, quickly to be the villain sometimes.
Yeah, I agree, and I like that idea of accountability, right? I think I think that's super important. I think for me, sometimes it hurts, or I mean, I don't know if it. I want to say it hurts sometimes at first. Like,
that's the correct word. Yeah, that's the correct word.
Okay, like, but it's like, you know, like I be asking the same thing, you know, essentially, right? And I think sometimes we might not know, like when we're in that hot seat of like receiving someone's boundaries, we might not know how it feels, like, you know, when we're dishing it out, you know. So it's kind of like humbling in some ways sometimes, right? But I think that accountability, and also just like, you know, when you know that you overstepped a boundary, or someone is communicating that you've overstepped a boundary, you know, apologizing or doing whatever you have to do to make it right. I think we hear the conversation about boundaries, but I think that sometimes having that real life example of how to set a boundary might be helpful. So let's just say there's a family member that always, you go to the cookout, you go to the festival, they always bringing up sensitive topics at a social event. How would you set that boundary?
Right, like if you want to take like a gentler approach, okay, right, you can pull them to the side, you know, going back to communication and saying like, yo, like, can you stop doing that? Mm-hmm. Like, not even no sugarcoat, like just straight to the point. Like, can you stop doing that? Like when you bring that up, that make me feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So I need for you to not do that. Mm-hmm. You can also do it when they bring it up in front of everybody, because sometimes it's like keep the same energy. Like, you know, you bringing up this thing that is sensitive in front of the family, so we gonna bring this up. We're gonna bring this boundary up, but is letting a person know, like, yo, I need you to stop doing that. And if you don't, because that's the other part, right? Okay. And if you don't, we're not going to be able to have a conversation, or if you don't, you're not going to be invited to my house, right? Because at my house, you're not coming with that energy, right? You're not bringing that energy into my house. So being, you know, clear about what you mean, and just communicating that to them.
Okay. You have anything to add to that?
That was a PG.
All right.
Or you could be petty P and just turn it right back on. That's me. But nah, I like that. You want to play these games? You want to tell people business? I got some business up to tell. Like, you know, but you can't. I mean, yeah, you have to definitely have that conversation with them, because that and it's like, but it goes back to. I mean, for me, the structure of who I am, I don't share a lot of information with people. That's just yeah. For a lot of reasons. Because even when you share or attempt to share positive news or whatever with people, they turn it into something else. And people are so negative these days, like you think they're cheering for you and they're really not. Like, you know, so I don't share a lot of information. So if that happens, I'm just kind of like, hey, listen, I need you to like. But then it also lets me know that I may have given you some information in confidence. I'll never give you any information ever again. Like, we'll never share any type, because you can't be trusted to hold my secrets. And I'm sitting over here with all your secrets and I'm not saying anything. And like I said, in some cases, I probably would be petty. Like, you want to start talking? Okay, I got something there. Y'all know this? Y'all know this? But and I know that's not really people. You shouldn't handle it that way. But sometimes people leave you no option. Yeah. Especially if you've had this conversation several times. Now leaves you no options, and they always play victim afterwards. They looking at you like, oh, you told that? Yeah, I told that, because this is, you know, you can't keep your mouth shut about my stuff. Like, you know what I mean? So, but that's really, if you can have that conversation with them, let them know, and then my suggestion with people would be limit what you share. Just limit what you share.
Thank you for sharing those, the ways that you would respond. But then also, Phil, I like what you said, that it just kind of also shows you how you should move going forward as well too. So I appreciate both of those. What about your boss expects you to respond to emails outside of work?
Yeah, I don't do that. And I've had that I'm not doing that. For one, when I'm on the clock, I'm on the clock, right? And so if, you know, it could be one of them jobs where you got on call, whatever, you go on call, you deal with that, and then when you off on call, you off. But that is typically individuals who want you to do that are micromanagers, and they are you know, as they determine, they say they kiss a lot of tell.
Mm-hmm.
Your level of perfection is not mine.
Yeah.
I don't want to be perfected. What I want to do is do my job. And if my job says from 9 to 5 p.m., then it's from 9 to 5 p.m. That's not my expectation. And I would probably have a conversation like, hey, show me where in the company bylaws.
That's what I was thinking that.
Show me in the company bylaws where it requires me to answer you emails and inappropriate. Like I've had supervisors in the past where they're like, what's your personal number? Negative.
Yeah.
Here's my job number. It's on from 9 to 5. We're not having that. That's not the relationship. And there should not be an expectation. But again, you know, if it's an emergency situation, you know how to get a hold of me. But that's just sometimes that's just overkill. Like you're overkilling. So I would have the conversation with them like, hey, this is the third or fourth time you've done this. I think that is very inappropriate. You know, I'm off the clock. And if there's any, you know, if they have any rebuttal, then you have to go down your list. Hey, okay, no problem. I hear that, but show me where in the company policy that it says that I have to respond to after 5 o'clock. Yeah. Now, since you want to get into schematics about it, you want to get into rules and regulations, you're gonna need to show me and document where that's at like that. Mm-hmm. And they're not gonna take it well, but it's the reality of it. I think that we have to learn. We're talking about protecting us. So and sometimes some of these jobs, it's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. They're gonna get 8 hours out of you. If they can get more than 8 hours out of you, they're gonna get more than 8 hours out of you. You have to be strategic and understand the regulations about I've given you 8 hours. That's it. Most people who work after the clock is people who own their own companies because you know that you got your own thing. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. But in this company's bylaw, it does not say I'm required to answer the phone. And you need your peace. Like if you just left a stressful day, I'm going home. Now you calling me 5:30, 6 o'clock. Where's the peace? Mm-hmm. Like you only get 8 hours of sleep. Some people don't even sleep 8 hours, and before you know, you walking right back into that situation, having not had the opportunity to download and dump the garbage, so you can carry more garbage today. So because you got to dump every day. Mm-hmm. So we're not doing that. We definitely not.
Yeah, I love everything you said. I'm trying to digest it all, but I think you really hit the nail on the head. And I think just even I like the levels of escalation, kind of like, you know, we communicate like, hey, you did this 1 or 2 times, and after that next, like really, you know, in an empowered way, you know, going to the handbook or whatever. And I think that's also another part, especially with setting boundaries at work, is really being aware of these policies. Like, you know, you get it at the beginning, right? You might be so happy to start the job, right? I got this down, you know, but you gotta be aware of those things. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I mean, I was going to say the handbook because the handbook is their boundary. Mm-hmm. So they have their boundary. They're going to tell you got to be here from this time to that time. You can't do this with the devices. You got to, you know. So they have their boundaries, and you should have, you know, yours. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be a matter of, I don't want to do this. I want to get fired. No, you're not going to get fired as long as you're staying within those boundaries. And, you know, just like, you know, we talked earlier about like family stuff. Like families can have a certain culture. Offices and workplaces can have a certain culture too. So even if everybody in the office is like, oh, well, we all talk, you know, after hours. If that's not what you want to do, you don't have to.
Exactly.
You literally don't have to. But, you know, also be prepared for people to try to, you know, pressure you or give you some pushback on that. That does not mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means now you are, you know, having them question like, maybe we shouldn't be doing that thing. Yeah. And making them uncomfortable, but it's about you and, like Phil said, your peace. So you do what's within the confines of those handbooks, and even if we want to even go before that, when we get these jobs, we got to look at, does this job's energy match us, right? Because work is a relationship too, just like friendships and family. So do their values align with mine? Does the work day or the job expectations align with mine? And if they don't, just know you're not going to be happy.
Exactly.
So you're crossing your boundaries.
Yeah.
So
and it's just like, and I like, this is so what Danielle said, and I'll explain it to you another way so people probably know. So like work, I'm a systems theory guy. Like I'm huge on systems theory. So when you understand what systems theory is, work is part of that system. So everything, your work, your family, your children, your clubs that you part of, whatever it is, right? So all that stuff has to work together to kind of complete you as a person. And any disruption in any of those sectors, you won't be complete.
Mhm.
So you gotta, like she just said, like you gotta, when we go into these jobs, we gotta see like if this energy met. The job may pay well, but it's not like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like it's even now, and I'll give you a prime example, full disclosure. Like I've been approached twice at my job for promotion. I'm not taking because the room that I'm going in, it doesn't match my energy. And I know it doesn't match my energy. And I'm not the person that's running it. It's devil behavior. And so I know me, I don't respond well to that. You're going to see the other side of me that I talked about before, because you're not going to bully me. You're not going to talk to me like I'm crazy. I'm not going to follow you around like you're one of your minions. That's not what I do. If I see something wrong, I'm going to speak on it. And if you can't accept that, I don't need to be in that room. And so that's why I kind of like push back. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. The money is nice, but I'm good. I'm blessed in other ways. So I'm straight.
Absolutely, absolutely. What I was getting also from what we were talking about is just like the perception of like standing up for yourself as well too, right? Like some people, I mean, for Black women, we get the angry Black woman. I'm just thinking too of like the ways we look at the policies and handbooks too can also be that form of protection when we're thinking about like, oh, if they retaliate or whatever, you also have like they have those expectations set in there too, right?
Yeah.
For if that does happen, and you know, you also have resources that you can utilize, you know. So I think it's important how we perceive standing up for ourselves as well too, right? So that was great. So anybody else had some scenarios that y'all want to highlight? Maybe something for the parents, maybe.
Ooh, wow.
Parents, or maybe like a partner.
I mean, definitely, you know, having an adult relationship with your parents requires a shift in boundaries on both sides, right? So this is your parent, and you know they raised you, and they had their boundaries for you growing up. But as an adult, you have to now decide who you want to be and how you want to operate, and that does apply to, you know, your family, your parents as well. We might not, you know, be going off on them per se, right? Like, you know, we may handle that with a more like gentle touch, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm like, it don't matter who you are, mother, father, cat, dog, whoever. Like, boundaries have to apply to everybody. So sometimes you do have to have hard conversations, and it can feel weird because it's like, dang, I feel like I'm reprimanding my parent, like, but it's not reprimanding. You're letting them know, like, yo, like, I'm an adult. This is, you know, how I operate, and I need for you to align with that. And if you can't, then we got to figure out how we're going to relate to each other. And they probably be looking like, I don't know what you're saying, like, you know, your generation, all that therapy stuff. But you are entitled to that, because if not, you want to be stressed out. I meet people all the time, like, my parents always calling me, always asking me to do it. It's like the roles are flipped, and it's like, but you're doing it. So yeah, they going for asking, but you have the control to say no, or if you can't say no, like it might sound, you know, not, you know, nice, but it's not about being nice, it's about being kind to yourself.
Can you say that one more time?
It's not about being nice, it's about being kind to yourself.
Absolutely, yes. And I think that it just, like I said, it just keeps going back to that perception, right? Of like how we perceive setting our boundaries. You can see it as, like you said, this is, you know, I feel guilty about this, like, you know, or, you know, I'm like empowering myself to, you know, like you said, take care of me and protect my energy, protect my space. You know, any other scenarios?
I think of, especially being like, not even just being a therapist, but like some of us are in certain positions in our friend groups or our families where we have a certain level of privilege because we went to college, or, you know, whatever it is, we got a business, whatever. And so we feel sometimes because we have resources and people ask, we don't think about it, like, oh, okay, here, you can just have that. Or even like with colleagues, like, oh, like, can you tell me about this? Oh, okay, here's that. And sometimes when you step back and look at it, it's like, I'm always outputting. I'm always the one that's given. And it's like, well, it's not a big deal because I'm not spending no money, or I'm not, you know, it's something I know already. No, like, you are entitled to have your boundary and tell people no, especially when they take advantage and when they're not, pouring into the relationship as well. Unless that's your understanding is, a transactional relationship. If y'all supposed to be friends or family, like, yo, you always ask me for $40, like, but I can't get you to, I don't know, like, come to my house for my birthday. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. So just because we have it doesn't mean we have to do it. So that's a boundary.
Oh my goodness. I say that one more time.
So just because we have it does not mean that we have to give it. You're going to feel guilty. You cannot avoid that. But you're going to feel guilty does not mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just don't feel comfortable.
Absolutely. I heard on the podcast one time they said guilt over resentment. So I'd rather feel that guilt rather than that resentment. So that's something that I take with me as well too.
Yeah, and I guess too for me, like just being able to, as again, create another boundary or setting rules and regulations for ourselves. Like I guess you got to understand when you grow, not everybody's coming with you. Like this is I heard something in a rap. So I think the guy said we on a narrow path and we all can't pass. We cannot. Nobody's not. They can't walk this journey with you. And I think the further you go, you do get you do, like Danielle said, you do start to feel guilty. But this is your journey, and everybody can't go there. Everybody don't deserve to go with you on this journey. And I think I've always been more so now as I've gotten older, but I've always been that guy that, like, listen, it's going to be what it's going to be. If we can't, we got to agree to disagree. If this is the end of our relationship, our friendship, I'm okay with that. I wish you no harm. I wish you the best. Wish God continues to bless you and your family. But I'm moving on. And I think we got to be okay with that. I think sometimes we let that guilt eat at us and eat at us. Is no, because choose you. And that's one thing I'm always going to do. I'm always going to choose me. If I choose anything else, I'm going to choose me, because without me, nothing else works. So I'm going to choose me over everybody else.
Absolutely.
Can I piggyback off of that? Just a little something. You said, that path gets narrower, so everybody is not going to come with you. When we hold on to people and places that are not for us, we don't have space for the things that are for us. So you're going to feel bad, you're going to feel lonely, you're going to feel you're going to feel grief, right? You're going to feel all that, but that is opening you up to the people, places, and things that are for you, that you're not going to have to be tussling over, boundaries. It's like, all right, cool, like, I got it. Like, we text me, you text, like, oh, I don't know, I want to, because I'm having PTSD from other, people, and I'm like, okay, that worked out. Okay, we were able to handle that, right? So you got to give yourself, you open yourself up to the possibility that there are people, places, and things that are for you. You shouldn't have to be on a struggle bus in these relationships.
Absolutely.
No, not at all.
So finally, just as we wrap up, I wanted to ask, if you can give someone one piece of advice to continue their journey, navigating boundaries confidently, what would you tell them?
I'm big on just starting where you are. Because everybody ain't gonna be, Rick James out here, like, everybody ain't gonna be like that, and that's okay, right? You can set a goal of where you want your boundary setting to be, but start where you are. So if you are a person who you literally cannot say the word no, like you feel bad saying it, say something else. Find another word to use. Like, I'm big on scripting. Literally having, conversation, we have an argument with somebody and then after the fact, yo, I should have said this and I should have. So do that before the conversation. You know your people, you read their book, most likely how they're gonna be. So script that out for yourself ahead of time. So when you're in those situations and that person will ask you for $40, you already have your answer prep. You could say oh no, I don't have my wife, whatever it is. If you gotta say something else to get eventually to the point to say no, that is okay. That's okay.
I agree with that.
I would say, always be self-aware of your emotions and your feelings, because that takes you a long way. You can always be willing to make adjustments if you're self-aware, and don't be afraid to step back. I think sometimes we always want to be there, or I can't miss this, so I got to be there for that person. Don't be afraid to step back, you know what I mean, and take care of you. I think you'll be okay. Just step back sometimes. stepping back, you can clearly see everything. It gives you time to adjust and control your emotions. It gives you time to dissect their emotions and what. Don't be afraid to just take a step back. Everything will be okay.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback off of that too, I've read the book Set Boundaries, Find Peace. Have you guys read that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, she also said, to your point, Phil, that when setting boundaries, it's most likely uncomfortable for both people, right? So with that, she said that sometimes you do have to just kind of give that space and just know that it's gonna be okay, right? The person might take it hard that first day or maybe the first a week or something, but it's gonna be okay, right? And then what I want to also add is that I think just trust yourself, right? And I think to that self-awareness piece, listen to yourself. Your body speaks to you. When you feel uncomfortable in a situation, your body speaks to you, your mind, and then also that inner wisdom. So I think just trust yourself and know all right, if you feel this type of way when you're around this person all the time or something, or in a certain situation, trust how you're feeling. And like you said, start where you are, and go ahead and start taking action in the best way you could. Any last words?
I think I'll probably say just embrace the journey, man. It's life is a journey. Embrace it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be bad. The ultimate goal, the ultimate prize is you. You know what I mean? Make sure that you're okay. Can't function, can't do anything unless you so keep you in the forefront and enjoy the ride. That's the only thing I can tell you.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. The title of this, when I was putting this together, is called Say Yes to You. And I think this whole conversation was an embodiment of saying yes to you. So I want to thank y'all for being here and contributing to this conversation. Couldn't have done it without y'all. Really appreciate it. And I hope that everybody that's listening and watching, gains something useful from this conversation. Just want to end with how people can connect with y'all.
So, well, first of all, thank you for having us. We appreciate it because, again, the representation, people gotta see is people that look like them talking about this stuff. You can find me on Instagram at Dope and Happy. It's just DOPEANDHAPPY. Also on the website, which is dopeandhappytherapy.com.
You can find me on that website. But you can also diversify. You gotta you can also find me at on Instagram, Rebirth of Man, LLC.org. Is my email. My other Instagram is pbrown360. You can find me there. So I'm all over the place. So look me up.
And of course, you can find us on Instagram at Well Together LLC and www.welltogether.us. So we like to say that wellness starts with you but ends with us. So thank you all for tuning in. Take care.